this is what you want. I paused. Was I certain? I thought about the home where I grew up, the backyard where I played as a child, the schools I attended, the friends I made, the memories, both good and difficult, that shaped my early years. I thought about my family now, my children who have never really known that place as home, my work, my daily life that has become rooted somewhere else entirely. Yes, I said finally, I'm certain. Each signature felt meaningful. I wasn't just signing papers, I was acknowledging that a chapter of my life had truly ended, that my path had led me far from where it began, that while I would always carry the influence of my origins, my future lay elsewhere. Some have asked if this decision was about politics or some disagreement with government policies. It wasn't that simple. When you live away from your birthplace for decades, when your daily life unfolds in a different country, when your children are growing up with different traditions and customs, your connection naturally changes. It becomes more about memories than current ties, more about history than present reality. My citizenship had become like a childhood toy, kept on a shelf, something I looked at occasionally with nostalgia, but no longer actively used. Others have wondered if this was just a practical decision about taxes or business. While practical matters were part of it, the truth is much more personal. This was about acknowledging where I truly live now, where my heart is, where my family's future is being built day by day. When I was younger, having multiple passports seemed exciting, a symbol of being a citizen of the world, of having options, of not being tied down to just one place. But as I've grown older, I've come to value clarity, simplicity, and the peace that comes from knowing exactly where you belong. There's something to be said for having one place you call home, one community you're fully committed to, for not being divided in your allegiance or identity, for your legal status matching the reality of your life. For those of us who remember a time before the internet made the world feel so small, before video calls and social media made distance less meaningful, citizenship meant something different. It wasn't just a practical matter of where you paid taxes or which line you stood in at the airport. It was about where your life was actually lived day to day. I've come to believe that's still what citizenship should mean. It's about where you've chosen to build your life, to contribute to a community, to leave things better than you found them. It's about having a stake in a shared future. Yesterday, as I signed those papers, I wasn't thinking about global business or tax implications. I was thinking about the sunrise I watched this morning from my current home, about the neighborhood streets where my children learned to ride bikes, about the local shopkeepers who know me by name, about the friends who've shared our table for holiday meals, creating new traditions that blend old and new. For many years after leaving, I maintained connections to my birthplace. I visited when I could. I kept up with news and developments. I spoke with pride about where I came from, explaining its complexities and beauties to people who knew it only through headlines. But over time, those visits became less frequent. The personal connections faded as old friends moved away or our lives diverged. My accent softened. My daily concerns became focused on issues in my new home rather than my old one. This wasn't a sudden change, but a gradual evolution. A slow recognition that while my birthplace would always be part of my story, it was no longer part of my present or my future in the same way. Some might see giving up citizenship as a rejection of one's origins. I see it differently. I see it as an honest acknowledgement of how life unfolds, of how we all change and grow, of how our identities evolve over decades. You can honor where you came from without legally binding yourself to it forever. You can appreciate the foundation it gave you while building something new on that foundation. You can remember your roots while allowing your branches to reach toward different skies. In fact, I think there's a kind of integrity in aligning your official status with the reality of your life, in not maintaining legal ties out of mere sentiment or inertia, in making a conscious choice about where your true home lies, rather than simply maintaining whatever citizenship you were born with by default. When I think about what I want my children to understand from this decision, it's not about the specifics of international law or immigration policy. It's about deeper values, about being thoughtful, about your commitments, about having the courage to acknowledge when one chapter of life has ended and another has begun, about defining your identity based on your actual lived experience rather than just inherited labels. I want them to understand that it's okay to change, to evolve, to redefine yourself as life unfolds. That your worth isn't tied to where you were born or what passport you carry, but to how you treat others, what you contribute to your community, and whether you leave things better than you found them. The truth is that yesterday I formally gave up my South African citizenship. Yes, I was born and raised in South Africa, living there until I was 17 years old. Many people don't realize this about me. They assume I was born in America, perhaps because my accent has faded over the decades or because my public identity is so tied to my companies here. South Africa in the 1970s and 1980s, when I was growing up, was a complex and troubled place. The apartheid system created deep divisions, profound injustices, and daily contradictions that even a child could see. I recognized early on that this system was fundamentally wrong, even as I benefited from the privileges it afforded me due to the accident of my birth. While there were many beautiful aspects to my childhood, there are the stunning landscapes, the unique wildlife, the warmth of certain communities. There were also difficulties. I experienced severe bullying in school. My relationship with my father was often strained. I often felt like an outsider, my nose constantly in books about worlds far beyond the one I inhabited. At 17, I left for Canada, where my mother had been born, drawn by the opportunities that lay beyond South Africa's borders. From there, my path eventually led to the United States, where I've now lived for most of my life. For many years, I maintained my South African citizenship alongside my Canadian and, later, American citizenships. It felt like keeping a connection to my origins, to the place where my story began. But as decades passed, that connection became increasingly symbolic rather than practical or emotional. I rarely returned to South Africa. My family had dispersed to other countries. The South Africa of today, while infinitely improved from the apartheid era, bears little resemblance to the country I left as a teenager. My memories are of places and a time that largely no longer exist. Meanwhile, America became my true home. It's where I've built my companies, raised my children, formed my deepest friendships, and found the freedom to pursue my most ambitious goals. The American spirit of optimism, of believing that tomorrow can be better than today, of seeing possibilities where others see problems, this resonates deeply with me. My decision to relinquish South African citizenship wasn't about rejecting my origins. It was about acknowledging where my life has led me, where my heart is now. It was about simplifying, focusing, committing fully to the place where I've chosen to build my future rather than remaining officially tied to a past I've largely left behind. This doesn't mean forgetting or diminishing what South Africa gave me. The resilience I developed there, the perspective I gained from seeing both privilege and poverty up close, the appreciation for nature's magnificence, these remain part of who I am, regardless of what passport I carry. You can give up citizenship without giving up the formative experiences and insights gained in that place. The memories, the lessons learned, the ways a place shapes your worldview, those remain part of you, no matter what your legal status may be. In fact, I believe that acknowledging when a chapter has truly ended can be healthier than trying to keep it artificially open. There's a freedom in release, in letting go, in moving forward unburdened by attachments maintained more out of habit than current meaning. As we grow older, many of us find wisdom in simplifying, in focusing on what truly matters now rather than trying to hold on to everything that ever mattered to us. We learn to distinguish between honoring our past and being bound by it, between appreciating our origins and recognizing when we've truly moved beyond them. My South African childhood will always be part of my story, but America is where I chose to write the most important chapters of that story, where I found the freedom to reimagine what's possible, where I decided to build not just companies but a life. Making that choice official, even when it meant giving something up, brought a sense of clarity and peace that feels right for this stage of life. Sometimes the most meaningful choices involve letting go. Sometimes moving forward means closing a door behind you. And sometimes the greatest freedom comes from fully committing to the path you've already been walking for many years. I've never been more proud to be an American citizen than I am today. This country took me in as a young man with big dreams and gave me the opportunity to make those dreams reality. Where else could a foreign-born person arrive with little more than ambition and hard work and end up building companies that reach for the stars and transform how we live? What makes America special isn't just opportunity, though. There's plenty of that. It's something deeper. It's the spirit of this nation that says, your past doesn't determine your future. That innovation matters more than tradition. That taking bold risks is something to celebrate, not fear. That failure isn't shameful, but rather a stepping stone on the path to success. I think about my parents' generation, growing up in a world where your birth circumstances often dictated your entire life's path, where social class, family name, or the country on your passport could limit how far you could go, regardless of your talents or work ethic. America broke that mold. America said, show us what you can do, not where you came from. That value resonates deeply with me. I wasn't born into wealth or privilege. I didn't have special connections. I simply had ideas and the determination to make them real. And America said, that's enough. That's all you need to get started. When I look at my children now, I'm grateful they're growing up as Americans. Not because America is perfect, no country is, but because the core values at the heart of this nation are ones I want them to embrace. The belief that tomorrow can be better than today, that problems exist to be solved, not endured, that individuals matter and individual choices make a difference. That diversity of thought and background makes us stronger, not weaker. I love seeing them pledge allegiance to the flag at school events, not because I want blind patriotism, but because I want them to understand they're part of something bigger than themselves. A grand experiment in freedom and self-governance that's still unfolding after nearly 250 years. Some of the most meaningful moments for me have been the quiet ones, standing with my hand over my heart at a school ceremony, hearing the national anthem at a rocket launch, showing my children historic sites like Independence Hall or the Lincoln Memorial. These experiences connect us to a legacy of freedom and possibility that I cherish more as I grow older. In South Africa, my birthplace, I was told what wasn't possible, what I couldn't do, where I couldn't go, what I shouldn't question. In America, I've been asked what is possible, what I can build, what problems I can solve, how far my imagination can take me. There's a reason people around the world still dream of coming to America. Not because it's perfect or without challenges, but because at its core, America still believes in possibility, in reinvention, in second chances and fresh starts, in the freedom to create your own path rather than follow one laid out for you. When I became an American citizen in 2002, I felt like I was finally making official what had been true in my heart for years. I remember the citizenship ceremony vividly, standing alongside people from dozens of countries, all of us choosing America, all of us committing to this shared experiment in liberty and opportunity. The judge who presided over the ceremony told us something I've never forgotten. He said, "You aren't becoming American today. You already were American in your hearts, or you wouldn't be here. Today, America is simply recognizing what was already true." That resonated with me deeply. Being American isn't just about where you were born. It's about embracing certain values, innovation, optimism, self-reliance, determination, and the courage to dream big. I had embraced those values long before I had the paperwork to prove it. As I've gotten older, I've come to appreciate the stability and security of knowing exactly where I belong. There's no divided loyalty, no question about where my future lies. I'm an American, period. There's a clarity in that simplicity, a freedom in that commitment. I think of my companies as American companies in the deepest sense, not just because they're headquartered here, but because they embody American values, pushing boundaries, taking risks others won't take, believing that impossible problems have solutions waiting to be discovered. The spirit of SpaceX and Tesla is the spirit of America itself, ambitious, optimistic, determined to create a better future. Some of my proudest moments have been watching American flags flying at SpaceX launches, seeing NASA astronauts carried to orbit on American rockets again, knowing that we're continuing America's tradition of exploration and discovery. These aren't just business accomplishments, they're contributions to a national legacy I'm honored to be part of. I believe America's best days are still ahead, not because progress is automatic or guaranteed, but because the fundamental values at the heart of this nation, freedom, opportunity, innovation, and the courage to reimagine what's possible, are timeless sources of renewal and growth. By fully committing to my American identity, by letting go of formal ties to my past, I've found a deeper sense of belonging and purpose. I know exactly who I am and where I stand. There's tremendous freedom in that clarity, in that simplicity, in that certainty. For those who might wonder if I ever regret giving up my South African citizenship, the answer is no. I honor where I came from. I appreciate the foundation it gave me. But America is my home now, the place where my heart is, where my children are growing up, where my life's work continues to unfold. Making that official wasn't a loss, but a recognition of what had already become true. America took a chance on me, a young immigrant with big dreams. In return, I've tried to justify that faith by building companies that create jobs, advance